All right, hello and welcome back to another episode of Just a Girl from Cleveland. This is episode 163. Recording a day later than usual this week because the Cavs were playing the Celtics for a very important game on Tuesday night when I would usually be recording. So recording on Wednesday instead this week because, if they were to keep that streak alive, I really wanted to make sure that I was capturing it in this episode. But unfortunately, they did lose that game. It's hard to be that sad about it considering they have been 15-0 to start the season. They're tied for the second best start in NBA history. Obviously, the number one team was that Warriors team that started 24-0, which is just so absurd to think about. But the other teams that they're tied with at 15-0, along with the Warriors, all made the NBA Finals in the seasons where they had these incredible starts. So just something to think about. Hopefully history repeats itself in this case, and the Cavs will be able to, just continue building on what they've done here, and that it actually does matter when it comes to, the playoffs. Obviously, there are other competitive teams in the East, one being that Celtics team that they just played, who just for some reason did not miss a three in that game. They were shooting out of their minds. So not saying by any means it's going to be easy for them to get there, but, it's nice. I guess for maybe other people, it would be nice to see those kind of stats. So it's like, okay, we're on a good track. But when you're a Cleveland sports fan and you see a stat that you're a part of that's positive or negative, if it's positive, or if it's negative, you're like, well, of course, this is Cleveland. If it's a positive stat, you're like, okay, so how are we going to be the ones to mess up this stat and break whatever, streak or, good thing that's happening? So that probably would be very Cleveland too. But, yeah, so let's get into the Cavs-Celtics game before we get into some football. So like I mentioned, obviously lost to the Celtics 120-117, which was probably the closest that game was at any point in time. I don't know that for sure, but, they were down pretty significantly for a good amount of that game. I think at one point they had a 21-point deficit, so to only end up losing by 3 is not so terrible. I actually feel like it's a good sign that this was probably this team's worst performance or one of their worst performances of the season so far. And the fact that they were still in it, were still able to come back from a 21-point deficit and mount a comeback. Also not having Karis, Isaac, or Dean because of injury. I think that is a good sign and a massive deal that even though it was a loss, they were playing pretty terribly and the Celtics were playing really well. They were not missing threes. And, I know they're obviously a good team, so that's not some crazy outlier, but in a way that the rate that they were making threes was pretty unrealistic for a team to keep up, consistently. So I'll take that as just a little bit of peace in my mind after a loss where you're like, gosh, we were close, but also, didn't look our best. There's positive to see from that. I think overall in the game, who struggled most was probably Darius Garland at the top of that list. Jarrett really did not have his best game either. Darius in particular was just not hitting his shots. Got blocked a couple times when he was driving to the basket. Just felt a little careless with the ball at times. Just overall, really not his best day. I feel like people are freaking out a little bit too much over him after that game, saying like, oh, Darius doesn't show up against the toughest competition, against the best teams. I think everyone needs to calm down a little. Once again, this team was 15-0 going into this game. They're not 15-1. He's overall had a really great year so far. I believe at the end of the prior game against the Hornets, he got banged up a little. Like he ran with the trainer to the tunnel for a bit, came back in. So I wonder if he is also just like a little bit banged up and might be a little off from whatever happened at that point. I don't know, but I'm not going to sit here and start freaking out about Darius Garland at this point in time when he really has been such a major part of the improvements that this team has made so far this season. So I just need everyone to take a deep breath. Everything's going to be okay. Darius Garland will be fine. I really do have faith in that. I think overall too, just with the whole team, you have to feel like in that matchup, they were pretty exhausted. They looked slow for really the first half of the game, just tired legs in general. I think it's hard when you're trying to keep this win streak going that you have, because you do, not that, they don't work hard every day, but you are giving it your all at a different level when you're trying to keep something like this going. So I think they probably were just a little bit tired too, which is understandable and probably expected at that point in time. And yeah, I just think it takes a lot out of you to keep going at that rate, especially when you're missing, at least 3 important guys, Karis, Isaac, and Dean, a part of your rotation. Other guys are having to maybe get more minutes than they're used to. Bench guys are coming in that aren't used to getting that level of minutes because they gotta, cover the space of the injured players. So I think there was a lot of just exhaustion on the court in general, which I can understand. But even with all the struggles, I do still feel like some of the bench guys showed up. Craig Porter had some really nice moments in that game. George Niang, and honestly, overall this season so far, I've been much more impressed with what we've gotten out of George Niang than what we got out of him last season. So that was good to see as well. And just, it's a good moment for the team to build on, something together when things aren't going well, to have other guys step up who usually don't have to step up when some of your main starters are struggling. I think it's good for guys like George to have to, play a little bit harder in games like that. And just all these things are stepping stones and building blocks for the rest of the season. And hopefully they take some of those things with them in the playoffs once they get there. The other real bummer about losing this game was that it was an NBA Cup game. And so you obviously want to win all of those and, want to win them by a significant margin. It does help that the Celtics lost an NBA Cup game already. We have won one of our NBA Cup games, so still 2 to go. But the fact that the Celtics already lost one does still give us a shot at being able to win out of our group. Also, the point differential in our loss was only 3 points. So the fact that they were able to run up that score to get it a lot closer does matter a lot for NBA Cup purposes. Just keeping that as small as possible, because their point differential from their game that they won for the NBA Cup was 18 points. So that helps, and hopefully they're able to run up the score in their last 2 games and obviously win them as well, so that they can come out of this group victorious. So upcoming games for this team, we've got Pelicans, Raptors, 2 Hawks games in a row, a home and away. I always forget they have in the last couple of years started doing those home and away NBA games a lot more. I still can't decide if I like them or not. Sometimes it's nice just to get a look at a team in terms of how you can game plan for them. It's almost like you're taking a little segment of a playoff series where it's like a home and away, with a day of rest in between, just to see how you can game plan for a team in that situation. So I actually don't hate it in that sense, but I don't have like a strong feeling about it either way. But then after those Hawks games, they play Boston again. So another Boston matchup, which, gosh, I just want to beat them. They're so annoying and frustrating to me. Hopefully some of our bench guys with the injuries can be healthy for that game and turn up a little more. Karis has done pretty well against the Celtics in the past, so it'd be nice to have him. The last thing I want to say about that game is, I tweeted this: Jason Tatum is my new Kelly Olynyk. And if you're probably a Cavs fan listening to this, you know exactly what I mean by that. That cheap shot at the end of that game for Donovan, his mouth bleeding there on the court, absolutely ridiculous. There was no reason for him to run into him the way he did, with barely any time on the clock left. The Celtics basically already clinched that win. Like, the Cavs were not going to be winning the game at that point. So for the fact that he did that, it was a cheap shot. It was very purposeful for him to do it in that moment. So he is on my list. I was obviously frustrated throughout the whole game with the way he was, hitting shots, because he's a very talented player in this league, but that really rubbed me the wrong way watching him do that in that moment. So I've been really searching for a new Kelly Olynyk for so many years now, of obviously that was a little more serious because he actually, injured someone in a serious way. But, you don't mess with Donovan like that. That was so disrespectful for no reason. So he's going to be someone I'll be prepared to boo in person in the future if I am at a Cavs Celtics game. So just wanted to comment on that because it was really annoying and ridiculous to watch. Okay, so let's get into the Browns game, which not excited to talk about, obviously. So the Browns lost 35-14, just an abysmal showing. One of the worst for the defense and special teams this season. I actually don't think the offense looked that terrible, but the defense and special teams certainly made it very hard for them to have a shot in that game. You just can't have the errors and mistakes that they did and have a chance at winning the football game. I don't know what's wrong with Dustin Hopkins. It is so depressing to see his fall from grace for how well he was last year, the extension that they gave him this offseason, and for how bad he has been this season. He missed a 51-yard field goal in the second quarter, then proceeded to miss a 32-yarder right at the end. But there was a penalty called on it. So it was like, oh my God, great. We have another shot at this. And had to kick a 27-yarder. Should be so simple. No, missed it also. I feel like kicking is such a mental thing that once a guy gets in his head within a certain team, like he just has to go at that point. It's really hard, I think, to mentally recover from it because that organization holds it against you. I feel like you mentally are holding it against yourself in your head every time you're going to kick. And I don't know how you recover from that. We've seen kickers redeem their careers consistently when they go somewhere else, because I think so much of it is mental in the part of, the organization that you're a part of when you're not playing well. So I don't know. They extended him, so I feel like he'll probably stick around, but this is so unacceptable and so frustrating. Just cannot happen. Then also on special teams, they allowed a 42-yard kickoff return by Taysom Hill, which Taysom Hill was just destroying this team all game. And then they had a 53-yard punt return by Dante Pettis, which then a play later led to an easy score by the Saints. So that is 2 touchdowns right there from just not doing your job on special teams. I don't know how we make it out of the season without firings happening at this point, with just how bad everything has looked. I don't think that you can bring back Bubba Ventrone with how bad special teams has consistently been this season. It's not just been this game. And he was really lauded as this big name, this great guy that they were able to bring in. And I was excited about it too. I'm not even leaving myself out of that. But just so frustrating that this team feels so underprepared every single week for what their job is on special teams. And I just feel like when it comes to special teams, there's no excuse for that. There really isn't. And then also with firings, I don't think this will happen. I have felt like Stefanski's job has been safe no matter what, just with the way Andrew Barry has been talking about him, and just with the entire situation with, Deshaun getting injured, with Ken Dorsey taking over play calling. It just has felt like that Kevin was going to be safe regardless, but I just don't know if this team continues to play in a similar fashion week after week. Coaches don't survive playing this poorly. So even if, my gut is still telling me I think he'll stick around and make it through all of this, nothing would surprise me at this point. I don't think truly anyone is safe just with how terrible it's been. And if it continues to be this terrible, it's just, this is a league where you don't survive things like that. So I don't know, tough to say in general, but just a brutal game overall. I feel bad for the fans who made a fun little New Orleans trip to travel and see them, and that's what they had to watch. Just not what I just think about planning in the preseason. I was like looking at away games I want to go to, and I thought, oh, like New Orleans, that would be a fun one maybe to go to. So glad I didn't, so that I didn't watch that game. But just there was so much hope for this team, and to see that the place that they're in right now it's frustrating. Okay, so looking ahead to this week, which I'm recording right now on Wednesday night, the team plays tomorrow night on Thursday night against the Steelers. Primetime game. Steelers are coming off a high after beating the Ravens 18-16. That's such a classic Steelers game, but also such a classic Steelers-Ravens score. Like 18-16 is so random AFC North field goal battle. Just very, very bizarre. But yeah, they're obviously always excited to beat another AFC North team. The Steelers moved to 8-2. It's unreal that the Steelers are 8-2. I just have to say, like, a real credit to Mike Tomlin. Just so mind-blowing to see where they are stacking up in the AFC. And this is a 10-game sample size for them at this point in time. So it's not a fluke or a mistake. Like, this is a team that is, playing very well defensively and has managed to, when they need to, get things done offensively. And it's just a credit to Mike Tomlin for being able to do that and just having his team prepared every single week. Look, obviously, as I've said the last few weeks, I know the Browns season is over, but I always think that winning games, it still matters. And I think, this game matters, one, because it's the Steelers, and you always want to beat the Steelers. I always want to beat every single AFC North team. I don't care if we don't have a single win. I want to beat the Ravens, the Bengals, and the Steelers, no matter the circumstances. That will always feel good to me. And I also think it's important because it is a Thursday night game with more eyes on it. I feel like that just puts even more scrutiny on the organization when you're not playing, your standard 1 p.m. game where everyone's not watching you. The criticisms and the whispers get a lot louder on, a Thursday night, a Sunday night, a Monday night game, just because the focus of everyone is really on those games and, what's going on with your team that they might not be seeing week in and week out. So I really, really would like to win this game just for everyone's sanity at this point in time. Also, it's at home, so it'd be nice for the fans to win a Thursday night game at home. I think it was 2 years ago, I went to a Jacoby Brissett Thursday night Steelers-Browns game. Browns won the game, and it was such a delight to watch. And it's always fun to win primetime games, especially at home. And any game in front of your home crowd that you can win, I think, is valuable and important. I struggle to have confidence in them to get it done at this point. My confidence in this team is at an all-time low. So I'm not going to project that we will, but I'm just saying it would be lovely. Keys to the game, I think, overall, if they do want to have a shot at winning this game, number one, I would say, offensively, pass protection. I think it's been better in the last few weeks. I think obviously Jameis being the style of quarterback that he is over Deshaun Watson, and just his veteran mindset of like getting the ball out quicker has allowed the pass rush or the pass protection to be better in general. But it will definitely need to be good this week because the Steelers obviously have a very talented pass rush and can have a big impact on games. So that will be a crucial point. As always, minimizing errors, penalties. We can't have these special teams dumb errors. We can't have penalties killing drives. Don't shoot yourself in the foot against the Steelers. That's where it's going to get you and make the difference in the game on why they will win and we will lose. Defensively, obviously, our pass rush needs to have an impact. And, I think George Pickens is one of the biggest difference makers on their team that can have some of these really crazy, big, explosive moments. I think it's obviously in the best interest of our defense to stop him. And that'll be really crucial if they, want a chance at keeping us in the realm of having a shot at winning this game. yeah, so that is all I have to say about the Steelers game. I also wanted to quickly touch on, I saw this week that the filming of the AFC North Hard Knocks has started. And, I keep trying to forget that that's happening because I'm not looking forward to having a closer look at the dysfunctional season that the Browns have had. Like when they first announced the AFC North Hard Knocks, I was like, this is amazing. All 4 teams are going to be so competitive down the line. Those last weeks are going to matter so much for who's going to make the playoffs. And here the Browns are just absolutely terrible. And then, you have the Bengals who are all but also eliminated from, being a playoff team at this point. So not exactly what we expected when, the original announcement had been made, but that is in fact still happening. Hope everyone will be on their best behavior, or maybe I don't even know at this point. I think it's going to be a fascinating time to see what the locker room is like, what the energy is like within the building, how the players are interacting with each other and the coaches. I'm interested at getting a closer look to see if how we are viewing things right now is also how the locker room is kind of operating at this point in time. So we'll see what is in store for us with all of that. But that is all I have for you guys today. Little bit of a shorter episode, but not much to say about the Browns when this is how things are going. So we'll leave it at that. But at least we have our sweet, sweet Cavs. One other thought I just had about the Guardians. Shout out Stephen Vogt for winning his lovely Manager of the Year award. I'm so proud of him. So well deserved. Just did a beautiful job with that Guardians team this season. So shout out to Stephen Vogt. We'll end it on a positive note with that. Thanks for listening. If you could please subscribe on the YouTube. I've gotten some more people in the YouTube community this week, so please keep subscribing there, liking, commenting on the videos. Very much appreciate that. If you listen on Spotify, Apple, wherever you listen to podcasts, leave a review or rating, share with a friend, all of that good stuff. We'll keep talking Cavs. We'll keep talking Browns. We'll keep talking maybe as it comes up here. I think the Buckeyes have some crucial games coming up, so might be touching on that as well. We will see what happens, but thank you so much for listening, and as always, go Browns.